Well, beyond excited to be, still in this situation where we get to have a press conference here on a Monday, December 30th. I think this team has continued to live in the moment, and it's great to be in this current moment with this group. We won that game a couple Saturdays ago. Met that Sunday morning, allowed the guys to go home, spend some time with their families over the Christmas holiday, which I think was very meaningful for them. Brought them back here on the 26th, and we've been at it since then. So excited about the work we've been able to put in the last few days, and I know we're excited about the next few days here in Bozeman, and then we travel down to Frisco on Thursday, and we're a week out from the game, so excited about that opportunity. I know the opponent in front of us. I think we know for sure. Having played them last year and then back in 21 down in Frisco, have a lot of respect for that program. It's beyond, the obvious, I suppose, with my situation, having spent so much time there and then having faced them. But really been impressed with this team, their team. Tim's come in there and done a really good job, and they're a team that is better now than it was back in August. That's apparent. They have some guys that have had those types of years, led by Cam Miller, that you need to take a team to these heights. He's done phenomenal things throughout his career, but has certainly had his best year this year and his last year. And when the moments have been biggest, he's really shined. So he's going to be a big challenge for us to contain. You look at the years that Marty Brown has had, the Jerry Rice Award winner, and Bryce Lance, the year he's had, and that's just to name two skill guys. They have many skill guys that can hurt you, and I think Cam Miller does a great job of spreading that ball around, and I know that it starts for them up front. So we're really impressed with that group and their continued improvement. Then on the defensive side, I know they've continued to do things that NDSU has traditionally done, led by their front. Mostart and Heisman, I think, from an interior perspective, is a heck of a tandem, very disruptive. And, I think that front in general and the number of guys they've played has continued to come along. I thought they played really well, and they were probably the difference in that victory over South Dakota State. And I think they've worked through some things, both at linebacker and the safety positions, with some injuries, departures, those type of things. And they got young guys in some instances playing, and those guys have continued to get better. And you can just see that I think they've continued to find themselves. I know Coach Olson, Grant Olson, first year coordinating, he's done a really good job of continuing to bring that defense along. So excited for this opportunity. A heck of a lot of respect for NDSU and what they pose is the type of challenge that you're going to get at this time of year. Do want to address the contract extension that was released today. Very excited to continue on here at Montana State. Grateful to President Cruzado and Leon Costello in particular for their continued support. We've, as a family, Molly and I and our boys have really enjoyed our time here. And there's a lot of things that go into the type of opportunity that you desire. And, our day-to-day piece has been great here. Our boys continue to grow up here in this community has been great. And, the support that we feel on a daily basis is what you want. And a lot of credit to these type of opportunities should go to our staff and our players. Been fortunate through the 4 years to work with great people, and that's our coaches, that's our support staff, that's everyone involved, and a lot of hard work that goes unnoticed, certainly on all ends by our coaches and our support staff. And then the most credit goes to our players. We've been really fortunate to work with talented young men who are about the right things and really desire playing the game the way it should be played and playing for the things it should be played for. And that's a lot of the reason we're in this position. So, a lot of people to thank, and excited about the opportunity moving forward. December in college football has continued to change. I know every coach across the country, whatever division you're at, you desire to be playing at this time, be desiring to play meaningful football in December, and we're very fortunate to do so. But it's also a month of a lot of transition. Signing day being at the beginning of the month, the transfer portal, and all the transition that has created. So it's created a scenario that this is where we want to be. We want to be playing football at this time of year, and I'm grateful for us being able to continue to play and have this opportunity to cap this season off. So with that, I'll open it up to questions, and again, excited for our team and what's in front of us.
Colter Nuanez, let's start with you.
Hi, Coach. Colter Nuanez, Skyline Sports. First of all, the quarterback matchup in this one's obviously going to be a big one. But can you just talk about sort of both these guys and the fact that they started in this game as freshmen in 2021, and now here they are as seniors and sort of defined as two of the best players in the country?
Yeah, and I think it's you look back and both these guys were named finalists, top 3 for this award coming out of the regular season. So I guess it is poetic that they both led their teams to this game, and I think they were both guys that have had a ton of success, won a lot of football games. But I think for both of them, they've continued to grow as quarterbacks. I think of what Cam Miller meant to that team in 21 and what he means now is two different things. He was a good quarterback. Now he's become a great quarterback. And I think the same can be said for Tommy. How Tommy did things and what he was willing or what he was able to do for us back in 21 and even 22, way different than the version of Tommy Mellott this year. And to be in games like this for your team to ultimately achieve at its highest level, you generally need good quarterback play, if not great quarterback play. And I think both teams have that, and excited for the matchup. I know they don't go head to head, but ultimately, the team that wins, a lot will come back to probably who played better between those two.
There's been so much talk about the offensive line, defensive line, and your guys' improvements there to get to this point. How much of that credit goes to just the mentality you guys would be able to hone collectively, and how much influence has Sean Herron had on sort of honing that collective mentality to help you sort of close the proverbial gap?
Yeah, I think he deserves a lot of credit. When we sat down back in February of 21, it was clear to me the right guy was in that position first off. I was very fortunate that Sean had taken the job preceding me in December of 20. And, kind of laying out how I saw things and where we wanted to get to, a lot was going to come down to, our ability to recruit the right guys that could develop, but then, Sean being able to put them to work and, transform them. And I think, that's not about one or two guys. That's about probably 15 to 20 guys over the last 4 years that have transformed. And I know, a lot was made about how we matched up in 21, and that game maybe had to happen for us to have this barometer of where we were at that point in time. And we were without Chase that day, Chase Benson. I know that hurt us, but they won the line of scrimmage. It was clear that particular day, and I think fast forward to 22 in the semifinal game against South Dakota, I think the same could be said that day. So not only have we trained really hard, but I think we've had a couple days where it's been clear on the field that we were not where we needed to be. And I think those days, those games, those opportunities, without them, I don't know that the motivation would be maybe as significant. Yes, our guys will be motivated, but when you do see it firsthand and you lose a game in the trenches, that ends your season in both those years, I think that's a catalyst for you. And we're 4 years into it now. We've recruited guys, they've developed, and I think we're in a position where I feel confident that our guys up front are going to battle and hold their own, and ultimately do everything they can to win that matchup on both sides of the ball. And that will be obviously very critical to how this game plays out, who wins that battle, and I know our guys are going to go after it.
Bryce Lance has had such a great season, but also just playoff stretch. How dangerous is he just on the perimeter?
Extremely dangerous. He can run. He's got great size. I think his body control, catch radius, all those things has continued to improve, evolve, and I would imagine along with that the confidence that he has, the confidence that Cam has in him, the confidence that Jake Landry calling those plays has in that connection. You can just see that growing throughout the year. So credit to him. It's not that he came out of nowhere, but he's taken his game to another level, to that star level, and he's not the only one they have out there. So it's not like you can put all your attention in his direction, but we'll definitely know where number 5 is.
I know you talked a lot about Adam Jones, but just the fact that there's 2 freshman running backs in this game that have made it to this point. How impressive is that to you? Because that's usually one of the hardest parts for those rookie type of guys.
Yeah, I can certainly speak to Adam, intently. I think Adam's consistency and durability has really impressed me. I think, that comes from a kid that he understands how to train and take care of his body. That's usually the last piece to come for those young guys. They're talented enough to go out there, but their ability to be as durable as Adam has been is typically not there. So I would imagine, for Marty Brown, it's been much the same. I know, once they got him going, since that point, he has been absolutely consistent as well, and he's a physical runner, so that's part of his game. So I think it's obviously a credit to both of them. They're not true freshmen, but this is their first time going through it, and to be able to stack up over 15 games, now 16 games, that's hard. That's a hard transition just to know what that means physically, and you need the right kids, the right young men, and I know Adam's that in our case.
Last one, just your first head coaching matchup against Tim Bolasek, a guy that you've worked with throughout the years, and I know that you're close with.
Yeah, I guess it's the way it goes. When Tim got that job, I imagined that there's one of these matchups that were down the road. 2 of the 3, our first 3 years we'd faced NDSU, so I had good faith that Tim would go there and continue moving things forward. And we haven't worked together since 2012, but Tim probably as much as anybody in the coaching profession is someone that I've stayed in touch with. And I think our relationship is growing. I mean, he ultimately replaced me back at NDSU, and there was continuity, I guess, with our relationship there. And then when I left Wyoming, he replaced me. Actually bought my house too in Laramie. So no, I think we worked together for several years from 2006 to 2012. In some ways we were continuing to grow up together as coaches under Coach Bohl, and I think see the game in a common way. We're different personality-wise for sure, but I think when it comes down to the game of football, relationships, how you go about your business, I think we're very similar. So I got a great appreciation for Tim, and look forward to talking before the game and then walking over to our sidelines and letting our teams go at it.
Let's go to Jeff Kopak. Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Hey, speaking of Craig Bohl, Biggs, describe his coaching tree now. Starting to branch out quite a bit.
Yeah, I think we were all so fortunate, in it wasn't like Coach ever, we ever sat down and had a master class or anything, but that's really what working for him with any length of time turned into. And for me, I'd say it was kind of 3 different phases through those 18 years. It was the initial phase of us, transitioning and building that program up at the FCS level. And it was in some ways that transition out of the 2009 season when we'd hit rock bottom at NDSU. We went 3-8 and had a lot of things that needed to go in a different direction, and they certainly did. And you look at the success that's gone on there since then. Just learning through that time at NDSU as I was growing as a coach, it was significant. And then by that tail end, I I did know that becoming a head coach was something that I wanted to do, but then the move with him to Wyoming and all that we went through there was a whole another layer to, which is just watching him work. And you know, it's there's so many things to it that why we are all positioned to be what we've become, I guess. You know, coach is he's going to let you do your job. So for one, he let us all work and he let us all grow underneath him. He's going to guide you, but he's not going to tell you what to do at the same time. He's a taskmaster. He's going to work as hard as anybody in that building. So when it comes to recruiting and developing and always trying to stay ahead of those two essential concepts, there was a constant evolution through the 18 years I was with him. You know, and ultimately becoming a head coach. And I look back at 2003 when he was this very successful defensive coordinator. He comes to NDSU and he became a head coach. He turned the keys over on the defensive side to Jimmy Burrow, and you know that made a real impression upon me. So when I would have the opportunity, you knew what being a head coach looked like, as far as managing a staff, managing a team, the fundraising aspect, the relationship you need within the community, administration. So I think it's all those things that we witnessed, just on a daily basis that has put us all in this position to maybe put our own swing on it to some degree, but we all owe a great deal of our success to him. I think that's beyond obvious.
Yeah, another one of those, Carlton Littlejohn, you recruited him out of Minneapolis, and you said a couple of days ago you were rocking the green sweater vest. What do you remember about recruiting Carlton Littlejohn?
Oh, boy. Yeah, Coach was big on the sweater vest through that stretch, so I followed suit. I think both Carlton and Grant recruited them both. And Carlton, Carlton was Minneapolis North. Minneapolis North at that program, I felt like, boy, that was a team that was just him. And they were going through a transition at that time where a couple years prior, I think there was a thought about not continuing to play football. And Carlton staying at that school meant so much to where that football program is now and the success they've had. They've had a tremendous amount of success in recent years. And I think Carlton Littlejohn, as a high school athlete, staying at that school and not going down the street to wherever, which a lot of kids did, was as impactful. And that was a parent walking in that school, whether it was talking to the football coach, Ricky Williams, at the time. I know Spank was involved at the school there through that stretch, Mike Favor, and he was hero status as a 17, 18-year-old, and he was as humble as the day is long. So I'm so happy for his success, because I know, he's reached out to me a few different times through his journey, and you just know he's going to go about it the right way. And to get back to NDSU for him, I think was a big deal, and obviously an important hire for Tim, and couldn't be more excited for those guys you coached, you recruited, to have the success they're having.
Finally, how do you handle your name being tied to all these FBS openings? How do you handle that, or do you pay attention at all?
Well, I think I've long lived by being where my feet are. Now, we addressed it with the team, no different than, say, the transfer portal. Our success is going to lead to, opportunities for people in this room, and that could be me. And if that time comes, I'll be as transparent as I can with the team, and at the same time not do anything to compromise this team. And that's why I spoke to it. This month of December is transitional for a great percentage of the football programs in this country. We're one of two at our level that are truly playing meaningful football right now.
Formatting is stupid.
So
People don't know how difficult it is.
Hey, Jay Powers, could you please mute?
Oh, sorry, guys.
So to finish my thought, you just deal with it, and you love the place you're at. And if something at some point comes along that makes sense, it'll make sense. But coaching this team throughout the championship made the most sense to me, and I couldn't be more excited to be in that position.
Okay, thanks.
Let's go to Craig Haley next. Craig?
Thank you, Bill. Coach, appreciate your time. My connection dropped earlier, so I apologize if this question has been asked already, but can you compare the feeling you have and your program has this time going to Frisco as opposed to your first year coaching the Bobcats?
For sure, yeah. I think at 21, we were beyond happy to be there. We were the 8th seed. We lost our last regular season game to our rivals. We inserted a freshman quarterback right there following, and got on a run where we won 3 games. We were able to get that semifinal game back here against South Dakota State, and put this program in a position it hadn't been in a long, long time. And I think that team, I don't know, getting that far was probably what it could do. And that team set the bar. I think that's critical. That team doing what it did and making it set the bar here at Montana State in a different way, I think, than it had been set. So, fast forward to this team, we're not just happy to be there. We've been able to put 15 games together and really truly live in that week-to-week moment for good reason, because that was our intent all the way along, to ultimately, give ourselves an opportunity to go down to Frisco and not only get down there, but do everything we can to win a football game and have a team that understands a little bit differently what that means than probably 21. And it's, you can look at the matchup aside, we're playing the same school, but I think our team is just better equipped with its mentality. We came into this playoffs as the top seed. When you're the top seed, you got a little different target on your back, and you have different expectations of yourself. So, different, but appreciating the opportunity in both aspects. But I think it's just that this team is wired differently from day one. Its expectations for what it could do have been different.
Sure. Coach, you did allude to it. The 2009 season at North Dakota State, what is going through the coaches' minds when you're having a season like that doesn't fit in with anything you've experienced there?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. Gus Bradley and I were the two that got held over, and we had experienced our last year before Coach got there, which was 2-8. Gus had gone on to the NFL by then, so I had experienced that at NDSU, unfortunately, in 2002. So I think the biggest thing was, okay, we weren't just getting blasted in each of those 8 losses. We were a competitive outfit. I think we felt like we had some good young pieces, and somehow, some way, I think, through my stretch there, out of that 09 season, we probably had our best recruiting year. So I think there was a collective effort by the coaches to keep forging ahead, and we aren't that far away. And I think as a team, I know we felt like we had this good young group that had the potential, and it was just, maybe about just getting to the next year, I think. And then fortunately that next year, it wasn't perfect by any means in 2010, but we actually, we found our way into the playoff, the 20-team playoff at the time. We made our way out to Bozeman in the second round. We won a game here. We lost that heartbreaker in Cheney, and, that the things that needed to happen to that team to take a step forward, to get close, I think was a big catapult into what it became shortly thereafter.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Let's go to Grace Lawrence. Grace?
My first question is about the state of Texas. It's the most represented state on the roster outside of Montana. Just what the state of Texas and recruiting has meant to you guys, what makes it so special, and kind of the full circle moment for a guy like Simeon that gets to end his college career in his home state.
Yeah, we have 15 young men on the roster from Texas, I believe, and there was just a couple, and Simeon was coming in that added to that group when I got the job. I think it was clear to me when I got the job that we needed to increase our efforts down there in recruiting, and I think part of that recruiting story for those guys was enhanced by us making that first championship game and playing down in Frisco. I know like Jared was recruited shortly thereafter, a Frisco native. So I think in the back of all those Texas natives, their mind moving forward from that moment was this potential opportunity to play down their home state. The only regular season game that we had on the schedule to play down there got robbed from us from Stephen F. Austin. So if we were going to play down in Texas, we'd have to make this game. So, I think for one of the big things for me and for our staff has been those Texas guys. They love the game of football, and they get a chance to be, in most cases, in high school programs where that football team and all their success is paramount. So they come up here, they really gravitate towards what we have here in Bozeman. So for that group to have this opportunity, for a guy like Simeon to be able to finish his career down there, couldn't be more happy for him.
And then talking about Coach Owens, who is a Dallas native, just what has he meant to this program and the addition of him as the DB's coach, the safeties coach this season?
Yeah, I think it's been significant. I think he first of all has done a really good job of building relationships with the guys in his position group. I think he's done a really good job within that defensive staff. And then on the recruiting side, it was immediate. We actually went into Seth Johnson's home. He's a Frisco native. Right down the street from the stadium, Reedy High School, and that was my first opportunity to listen to Jody in a home visit talk about his experience as a Metroplex native, coming up to Bozeman kind of as a youngster, really not knowing what he was getting himself into, and then how this place, Montana State and Bozeman, changed his life. So I think when he can go down there and be able to tell his own story, I think that's really significant. And in addition, Nick John Baptiste being from Houston and now being on our staff several years, Nick's done a great job down there. He didn't play here, but he's been here, and I think he's done a great job identifying those Houston area kids that are going to really thrive up here. So, we have more guys than those guys recruiting down there, but those two Texas natives being able to, in different ways tell their story and their experience up here, I think has been significant for us.
Awesome. And then last one from me. I know you've talked about it a bit this season, but I'm working on a feature on Cole Stain and just kind of his whole collegiate journey. But to see what he's been able to do this season, stepping in at center, and then the full circle moment of just how far this season has gone for him and his stellar performances week in and week out, just what you can say about that.
Well, it's quite a journey. I would say it's unusual. And I think the journey that I've witnessed in the last 4 years is what I'm going to really hang on to. His continued development as a football player and person, has been tremendous in what he's after. And then I think the obstacles that have come in his way, and how he's dealt with that. And I think, how this has shaped him into the man that he'll ultimately leave here as. That's what you want. You want guys to certainly grow and have this great experience on the football field, but you want them to grow into these men that are going to be able to go off and be highly successful. And Cole is going to be highly successful in life. His business acumen for a person his age is significant. And what he's meant to us this year, being able to go from, okay, how is this going to work? He hadn't played football in a year. We have a bunch of guys, candidates at those guard positions. That's where, that's kind of where it started for us back in fall camp. Certainly he was going to be our backup center at the same time. Justice goes down, and Cole's, got to go back in there and still as this mature older guy, but this guy that hadn't played football in a long time. And what Cole's done throughout the course of this stretch is he's continued to get better, and his improvement has been key to us, and his durability and what he's done to put himself in a position physically to be as durable as he has, and how that process repeats itself each week. I can't thank him enough for the efforts that he's made physically. So, unique story, and we've come a long ways. He's come a long ways, and we wouldn't be where we are without his progress.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Let's go to Eric Peterson next. Eric.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned Cody Heisman and Eli Mostert. What challenges do they present the kind of the deep tackle, the way those two guys play with the offense you run?
Yeah, well, they're both really strong and really quick, and then they're relentless. So whichever one of those you want to put in front, I'd say that relentless piece probably goes back to the front as far as the most challenging thing. And it appears that as the season gone along, they've been willing to do more and more with them. Just moving them and their defense no different than ours is built from the inside out. So it starts with those two positions. And Eli's been a big time playmaker for quite some time now. And I think Cody really through the course of this year has become something very similar to Eli. So I know he hasn't garnered maybe the national honors that Eli has, but boy, you see those guys as both that type of player. So to be able to put two of those guys out there at the same time, I think that in itself is a challenge. But both big, strong, quick off the ball, good against the run, good in pass rush, and then they just the way they both play is without end. So we're going to have our hands full with them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Victor Flores, let's go to you.
Hey, Coach. I was curious about, Ken Miller brought this up in his presser today, the field conditions in 21 affecting your D-line so much in that game, and then, of course, in 22, the same thing in South Dakota State. So I'm wondering how much you feel like that was maybe contributing to some of the trench issues, and your overall thoughts on those field conditions 3 years ago and 2 years ago.
It didn't help. We needed every probably advantage both those years that we could get. So when the field was slick, which it was two different forms of slick in 21 and 22, that didn't help. And we were thinner. I know that in itself. Without Chase in 21, that really made us thin, especially on the interior. And then in 22, I think by that time we weren't as deep, and our depth, quality of depth wasn't what it needed to be, and we were still probably young at that time too. So I don't think we're young anymore. I think we're deeper. I think we're capable of playing in more conditions, I suppose, field conditions, bigger, stronger, all that stuff. But it was a factor both those years. But I think when it comes down to it, they're playing. Both the offensive lines are playing the same scenario So we got to be able to handle whatever the field's like, and we have to be able to win that battle.
And last one for me is just, did you have any injury update? I know Junior Alexander got hurt in that last game. Julius Davis is a question mark. So those two, and just any other injury update. Yeah,
I suspect that Junior's going to be just fine. And the rest certainly has helped him. Julius will probably be, a situation where this whole week is going to have to play out to see where he's going to be at. But this is the first game I think I've been able to say that, and that's going back to when he got hurt against Montana. I think we felt like out of that game, the one game he could potentially play in would be this. So that's where I didn't want to close the book on his season. I knew this game would be an opportunity potentially, and he's worked, and I'm hopeful for him to be available come that next Monday.
Thank you.
Austin Parr, you're up next.
Hey, Coach. Doing a feature on Kenny Eidman, just kind of his impact this season. It seems like teams have, double teamed Brody a lot, and he's been the beneficiary of that, starting really at UC Davis and on through this playoff run. So just kind of what has he, meant to this defense or this run?
Kenny's extremely talented and has been, and he's had flashes, I think, his first couple years. And like a lot of our D linemen, I'd say Brody was the same way. There's a step-by-step, process to becoming, as complete as possible. And I think Kenny's done that, gone through those steps. And he's, there's a couple things to it. We obviously ask those guys to rush the passer, and those really talented guys can probably do that from day one in some regard. But being able to read your keys and play the run and play really disciplined up front, that takes some time. And I think Kenny's put himself in that position where I think we have that on either side between him and Brody. And if he's been the beneficiary of some of the matchups, there's part of it, but part of it's just who Kenny's become. I think Kenny's become a tough matchup in his own right. So we need them both to be factors in each and every game. And I think down the stretch when these games have continued to mean more and more, I think they've continued to show up all over the place. And Kenny's play, I think has put him in a conversation with Brody. Honestly, I mean, I think we really hold Brody in high regard, and that's how we want it to be. But I think Kenny's put himself, just with his consistency and his effort, and how he's continued to, go after becoming the player he can become. And having a guy like Brody in that room is such a great example. So, credit goes to Coach Howe for sure, but then, Brody for, showing the way. In a lot of ways, Brody showing the way by guys before him as well.
You kind of spoke about it a little bit there, but just, not only his, you talked about his on the field growth, but what he has done, the work behind the scenes, and just kind of his growth and development into, becoming one of the leaders on this defense over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think he got here my first year, and he was a highly regarded guy from Bozeman High that, there's just a transition as a young man that needed to occur, and it needs to occur with most of our guys, so redshirting and, us even figuring out, okay, is he an inside guy or is he an outside guy? What's the right weight for him to be at? I think there's just a maturing that had to occur and needs to occur in most of our guys. So then, going through each one of these years and increasing his role has been part of the plan. And last year with guys like Ben Seymour and David Alston, Kenny wasn't leaned on as much, but Kenny showed up and made plays. And now with the departure of those guys, and especially a guy like Ben who probably played, I know he played the most of all those guys rep-wise last year and was as consistent as he could possibly be. We needed Kenny to step up and make the plays for sure, flash for sure, but then be that consistent force, and I know he's done that. So, credit to him being talented for sure, but then recognizing I got this talent. Okay, I grew up in Bozeman. My dad played for the Cats. I want this. I really want this, and now allow these coaches to pour into me and become what I can become. And I know that transition was already happening prior to this year, but it's really taken hold this year.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Tom Izzo, what do you have?
Veeks, great to see you, bud. What's your first memory of Tim Polasek?
Well, I heard his interview about him going through the punt team. I remember I met him Main Avenue down by the high rise. There was, I don't know what it was called, Frying Pan or something. We ate breakfast there first. That was the first thing, and he got something on his tie. So he was so worried about getting something on his tie for this interview. That's honest to God what I remember the most. Whether that happened before the punt team interview or not, it was one of the two. But I think it was apparent that here's a guy that had a whole lot of energy, was passionate about the game, would work his tail off, and that was the first impression. And then that obviously, I think over those next couple of years, 06, 07, 08, he just continued to develop into, a football coach, not just this guy that could work hard, that was a lumberjack and all that. He really became a football coach.
I think I asked you this after the New Mexico win, but how many similarities do you see from that 2010 Bison loss in Cheney to what happened to you guys last year with Bison, and how you followed that, the 11-year, with what you've done in 2024?
Well, I think as a coach, I think the first thing you do is you fall back on your own experiences. No one in this program, with the exception of me, experienced that. I know Ryan Shepard came on the other side of that loss, but you look at that, you reflect back on teams and how you pick yourself up from devastating blows, and at the same time, how do you move on from the highest of highs? So I certainly recalled that year, and I knew that we had a lot of leadership that was coming back. I knew we had a lot of talent that was coming back, and I think the same would be said for that 2010 into 11 team. And just being able to, yes, put it behind you to some degree, but let it burn inside of you at the same time, especially through those winter months. And maybe if at any point in time you need a reminder that I just need to go in this weight room and work my tail off, think about the end of that game. And it snaps you right back and, okay, I need to work hard. So I think our guys in a similar fashion, our seniors, really did the same things. I would think that leadership group of that 2011 team did. And, and then you get into a season and you need your moments too. You need your moments like we had at New Mexico, down 17 a couple times. And really, I think to this team cementing that, okay, we can do this. And if that was the 11 team, I don't know, we played Minnesota that year, right? That was probably the game as much as anything. And beating Northern Iowa, I suppose, was whatever that happened for the first time. Would have been those games maybe in particular that were similar. And then we've been able just to, really stack these wins up. So, I think there's definitely some parallels in my career. Both teams, sad to see those seniors go, like that 2010 group, no different than our group last year. And they were, small but meaningful. And then, but this group of hungry guys that had learned from them, I think that probably is as simple as I could put it as far as the comparisons.
Last thing, I haven't asked you on, just, you guys got it all to yourselves Monday night. There's no NFL, there's no other college game. How big a deal is this for the FCS? You guys are it. You're the only game in town Monday.
Well, people in our country love football. So I imagine they'll find their way to ESPN to watch it. I think it's a big deal. I think the football played at our level, and especially as you get down to these last couple rounds, it's beyond entertaining. It's really good football, and it could find it. Our two teams could find their way into, I don't even know, in the middle of FBS, and certainly hold our own. So, I think all these games that have been going on for a couple weeks now, maybe people come across them and they turn it on or they don't. The NFL certainly is a priority for a lot of people, but to be in a standalone, scenario like that, I think is great for FCS football. It's certainly great for our two programs, our institutions, and, great that the spotlight's clearly on us.
Thanks, Pete. See you this weekend, bud.
Absolutely.
Coach, before we finish with Braden, before I mock Dom Izzo about being a Mets fan, Ryan Leaf has sent in a couple questions he'd like to ask about Tommy Milot's control over the offense and what it's like coaching a quarterback with that and those leadership qualities that Tommy showed. And he'd also like to ask about Brendan Hall.
Okay.
His emergence as a weapon.
Yeah, well, with Tommy, I think you become a senior, a fourth-year guy in an offense. You want that type of guy to be an extension of your coaching staff, and I think Tommy's certainly that. And it's not that he hadn't been before, but I think this is we've taken it to another level this year, and that certainly does play out on Saturdays to some degree. But I think Tommy's growth in a lot of ways has been his willingness Monday through Thursday, let's say, and sit down with Coach Walker, even sit down with me and, express his thoughts of the game plan, of the opponent, what he likes, what he doesn't like. I think that's a huge transition for a quarterback, and he's taken that piece to the level that he needed to this year. When you talk about his control of the offense, I guess. And I think as much as anything, our offense now 3+ years in has really leaned into his skill set more than any this year. And it's not that we hadn't the prior years, but we had Sean too, and I think there was things we did differently maybe with the both of them. And this year, how Coach Walker and the offensive staff have, let's say, constructed this offense, it's entirely towards Tommy, the things that he does well, the things that he feels comfortable with. So I think that piece, again, talking about control, is is something that I think has taken his game to another level. So, yeah, Tommy's been phenomenal this year, and he needs to be phenomenal one more time. Brendan, I think in his case, Brendan's been solid. We haven't had in the first 14 games, a ton of meaningful situations where he had to come through. I think he'd done fine. He'd done really well. And then you get in that second half, the Saturday against South Dakota, and he needed to come through in a big fashion, and he did. And we've talked a lot about how he's a weapon. Certainly on the kickoff game, his ability to put the ball in the end zone and really, by and large, the last 2 years eliminate the opposing team's kick return has been significant. We've given up one kick return of any significance in my mind the last 2 seasons, and that's only in large part because of Brendan putting the ball in the end zone. Now on the punt side of things, those opportunities have been few and far between, fortunately, because we've done the things we have on offense. But he's been a weapon. It just so happened that it really didn't play out where it was, hey, we need you to come through now. That moment came through in the second half against South Dakota, and what he was able to do, flipping that field a couple times, significant. And for him to be able to cap his career back in the Metroplex, growing up just west of Fort Worth, going to SMU his first couple of years. He's one of those guys that you talk about in recruiting a couple of years back, saying, hey, that championships played down in Frisco, and Brendan's a big soccer guy too. So I think him getting a chance to play in that stadium is probably more meaningful than most because of his soccer background. So we'll need them both to be impactful on next Monday, and I'm certain they'll be up to the task.
Brent Shaw, you have the anchor leg. Take us home.
Thanks, Phil. Brent, first of all, you guys have talked about this mentality shift all season with the 1-0 mindset. I was curious what you could say about the impact of a guy like John Shirkey on that and kind of the mental performance side of impact of this program.
Yeah, John's impact on our program has been, I think, been critical. John came to us after the 21 season, so it was kind of the beginning of the 22 calendar year that I got to know John. And at the time, here was been meeting with him a couple times. Here's a very talented, trained individual that brings something to the table on the mental performance side that we didn't have. And he was here in Bozeman. He had a real eagerness to work with our program. And so that spring of 22, got him in front of the team a few times just to allow him that opportunity, I guess, and gauge a comfortability with our guys. Because anytime you bring an outside, I guess, person, force, whatever into your program, you want to feel like your players are going to be about it. And I think it was apparent through that those first couple meetings that they would be. And then really since then, it's been kind of on I suppose a case by case basis. He's worked with a lot of our guys, between the 22 fall essentially through now, and I think he's really been able to help them, with their focus, with their goals, and it's not that coaches don't have some of that as part of their repertoire, but this is John's background, and he's also coached high school football, so he gets football at the same time, and so my feedback from our football players, our student athletes, has been, hey, and it's not every guy by any means on our team, but the guys that have worked with John have really appreciated that. It's been an investment. The quarterback club, booster club funds this part of what we're doing. The quarterback club is meant to go above and beyond, and picking and choosing either areas or people or whatever that are going to help our football program, to its highest heights. And so we've done that. We've made that investment, I guess, in John, and he's been impactful, and I don't get involved a whole lot, and that's probably the beauty. I think our guys feel like they can work with John. He can give them what they're looking for as far as, again, just a lot of it's, how do I focus better? How do I maybe prioritize tasks better to some degree in my mind. Because the work they do physically with Sean Heron's significant, but for them to become more mentally aware, I guess, and practice the mental side of their preparation, I think is something that's certainly come to light over the last couple years. So having someone to be able to work on their mental performance, as simple as that, has been big for a lot of our individuals. And it's not to say he's got in front of the team from time to time, but it's been more about his individual work with several of our guys, for the last 3 seasons.